Inravio.com.
Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larson. You're watching the 5 Off, 5 On Racing Show. Welcome. Yes, Phoenix. A lot of stuff going on in Phoenix. The last race to determine the Final Four. We're going to be talking about that. And, you know, before we get into Phoenix, you know, we've kind of always said that, you know, people think NASCAR plays games, the teams play games, everybody plays games. And I've always said it's the team's job to push the envelope, and it's the officials, not only in NASCAR, but all the other series, Dirt, NHRA, all those other series, Formula One, Indy. It's up to the officials in those series to seal that envelope. And I'm going to go back to last week with Kevin Harvick. And for those who don't know about the teching of these cars, and I saw on social media a lot of people were talking about that, and talking about how did the car pass pre-race tech. And for those who don't know, there's templates that come down and with lasers on top of the car, and different points of the car are measured, and they put feeler gauges in or with lasers in some points, and to see what's what. And I have to say that's my question too, because this thing comes down and it covers the hood, the fenders, the A and B post, the sail panels, the roof, the trunk deck, the spoiler, and it's all good. The opening in the wheel base, and so you pass. Then you go out there, and you know, from what I understand, you know, they watched the video, and the spoiler was never touched throughout the race. The teams, you know, years ago, as they put in the fuel, they'd lean on it. There used to be a catch can guy, and he'd push the spoiler. That didn't happen. So how, in post-race, is that spoiler no good? So is it a way to manipulate the outcome? Take that win away, so now it's an encumbered win, so it does not put him into the chase automatically. He has to earn his way in point-wise. And for a while during that race there was a possibility that he wasn't going to make it. And I guess the powers to be were like, wow, well, he's in now. There's nothing we could do. I don't like that kind of stuff. And the reason I don't like that kind of stuff, because it's underhanded. And I'm not saying who was underhanded. I'm not trying to say NASCAR played games. I'm not trying to say an official was a little overzealous. I don't know. But when I saw that and read that, and you know, that was one of the discussions we were looking to have last Monday, but you know, we didn't go live. But you know, the Final Four are picked, and you know, when you think of the Final Four, it's a good group of drivers, this Final Four, but there's some guys that always made the Final Four that aren't in, and maybe it's not the guys or the driver, it's teams. Hendrick is just not in there. Wow, you know, who would have ever thought that Rick Hendrick wouldn't have a team in the Final Four? Is the Hendrick day over? I don't know, you know. And when you think about that, it's everything goes in eras. You know, you had the Richard Petty era. You had the era with Winston, you know, that came in, and you know, a whole group of guys left the racing series because it now became more controlled, and the points were all the same, and you went, you know, on that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyway, I understand some guys are talking about some audio situations. We're looking into it right now. So I'm gonna keep talking. So I'm gonna keep talking, and hopefully it's an issue that we can resolve real quickly. But when you think about the racing as it is now. You know, guys would be in their mid-20s finally getting into the Cup Series, or the Grand Nationals as they were called in the 60s and 70s. But they worked their way through. They worked their way through weekly racing series tracks, chasing points all over the place. And it wasn't like they had support divisions coming in. And they had, you know, an opportunity where they had a car and there was a race on down the road and they wanted to race it. And now what's happened is these young guys and gals start in the go-kart levels at 5 and 6 years old and work their way up to go-karts and champ karts and bandoleros and legend cars and then they might run you know, in another touring series. And I always said that the K&N Pro Series East and West was a series that was put together as a, I'm going to say, as a development program for the next, you know, 3 series, the top 3, the trucks, the Xfinity, and the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. So that kind of became that, because you don't see anybody like coming into racing from like out of nowhere. They've been developed. They've been developed by NASCAR. They've been developed by the teams. And I know as a part-time official on the K&N Pro Series East, I saw that these young guys and gals were coming in, and they'd come in and the teams are owned by Cup teams. And you're like, wow, you know, how could that be? You know, when it was the old Bush North and then they made it the Bush East, it was a bunch of northeastern Pennsylvania, Jersey people that were doing the racing and moving in. And then when they made it what they did, and it just grew out of control, and it kind of knocked a lot of people out of racing. And that, of course, is in my opinion, you know, just my opinion. But anyway, I think we're okay now. I'm getting the sign that we should be. So anyway, so let's talk about Phoenix. And Phoenix was the second to last event in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, as well as the Xfinity and the Camping World Truck Series. So let's talk about the Cup Series and the results there. All right, we had Kyle Busch was the winner there. Brad Keselowski second. Kyle Larson was third. Eric Almirola was fourth. Kevin Harvick was fifth. Jamie McMurray sixth. Matt Kenseth seventh. Austin Dillon eighth. William Byron ninth. And a nice finish for Darrell Bubba Wallace, rounding out the top 10. So the final 4 going into Miami in the Cup Series are the following. We have Joey Logano. We have Kyle Busch. We have Martin Truex Jr. And we have Kevin Harvick, who snuck in and got that last spot. So these 4 competitors, and I'll tell you what, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, they end up side by side. It's going to be interesting. Truex, he's no slouch when it comes to trading paint and pushing and beating and banging. So, and then of course we have Harvick, who's a seasoned veteran, and I think, and not that I'm a betting man, but my money's on Kevin Harvick. He's a seasoned veteran. He knows how to save equipment. He knows how to just ride it out and take the opportunities that come to him. I mean, at the end of that race, it's going to be how these 4 finished. And it's not going to be, you know, additional points. It's going to be how these 4 finish. And that's what's going to make the difference in this race. And going into Miami. And, you know, it's interesting when you look at this, when you look at this whole playoff package, this whole playoff system. And I was never a fan of this playoff. You know, you have one bad day and you're out of it. You know, you have one bad race in the playoffs and you're kind of out of it. And, you know, one race could ruin a whole season. And that's not really so good. and it's not so good at all. But you know, when you have these things, and it's just one of those things, and that's what NASCAR has chosen to do, and that's because they feel that it's going to increase viewership. It's not helping in the grandstands. However, I know a lot of those tickets are sold and they're no-shows, but it's something that needs to be addressed moving forward. Brian France is no longer steering the ship, and I think you have a person that's steering the ship now who has a little bit of brain when it comes to the racing business. Anyway, and I had started before I talked about the Phoenix, talk about, you know, how these drivers and that we're getting in their mid-20s. Well, and it was announced that Cole Witt, who is 27, well, is going to retire. He's 27. He's going to retire. He's got 161 Cup starts, no wins, no top fives, and no top tens. His best finish in the season series points was 31st. He also ran the Xfinity Series with 53 starts there. No wins, 4 top fives, 18 top tens, and he's also ran the Camping World Truck Series as well. And no wins, 2 top fives, and 11 top tens and 28 starts. So I have to ask this. 27 years old, so when the next season starts, it'll be 28. Why are they calling it retirement? You don't retire at 27. You quit. You resign. You move to other things. And to call it retirement, I think that's ridiculous. Now, maybe it's money, maybe it's a nice way of saying, I lost my ride and there's no sponsorship, because sponsorship, like with anything, when racing is big, but he's 27 years old. Elliott Sadler at 40, mid-40s, that's a retirement, racing for 25 years, 20 years. But, you know, here's a guy that has just about 240 starts. You're talking maybe 7 or 8 years of racing, if that, to retire. You know, I'm stepping out because I want to start a family, not retire. I'm stepping out because I'm going into the family business and I need to concentrate on that, not retire. You know, it's just incredible. And I hear these, well, I'm retiring, right? Again, you didn't retire, you quit, okay? You're doing other things. I respect that, I really do. But to say you retired, I saw that, I laughed. I saw that Cole Witt retiring. I'm saying to myself, isn't he just a kid? Yeah, he's a kid. My baby is old as him. But anyway, we're going to take a break, and we come back. Well, we should be back to 100% normal, and we'll talk about the Xfinity results there, as well as the Camping World Truck Series when we come back.
Hey, what's oh, I said was going to say what's up for some reason. Hey, we're Set It Up, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Village Music Shop of Mastic, 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi there, this is Buddy from Less Than Jake, and you are listening to Inravio TV. You're probably watching it too.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Welcome back. Anyway, Xfinity Series was at Phoenix, and I don't know if anybody watching, if they noticed the new configuration to the track. It definitely looked nice, and it's definitely a good handling racetrack. We'll see how that goes. And you know, they're talking about Jay Slice. I love when he talks about the old days and what it cost. And oh yeah, we had some fun, Jay Slice. We definitely did. But anyway, you know, when you talk about the money that it costs to race, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. It never was cheap. It's all relative. You know, when you look back years ago, I can remember, you know, racing at License Speed. Maybe what I did you couldn't call racing. I kind of drove around. But you know, when the pit fee was like $5. And you got 2 ladies passes, so you know, give them to 2 females, your wife, your mother, or you know, if you had, they could be used for children, which, you know, some people said doesn't make sense because you know kids are 50 cents and it's you know $3.50 to get in. Why would you? You know, like I said, it's all relative. You know, it's just all relative. Anyway, the Xfinity Series, they were at Phoenix this weekend, and Christopher Bell was the winner there, followed by Daniel Hemrick. Matt Tifft was 3rd. Austin Cindric was 4th. Ryan Preece, 5th out of the modified tour, one of the regulars there. Tyler Reddick was 6th. Brandon Jones was 7th. Cole Custer 8th. John Hunter Nemechek 9th. Spencer Gallagher rounding out the top 10 there. The 4 playoff contenders in the Xfinity Series, we have Cole Custer, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and Daniel Hemrick. Now these guys will be beating and banging for that championship, and we're flashing their pictures up on screen. And Daniel Hemrick was an older guy who ran on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour on a part-time basis. And you know, it's funny when you look at a driver and you look at the team and you say, hey, wonder what they're going to do. Are they going to stay and run modifieds for the rest of their life? Or are they looking to move on? And I would have never thought that Daniel Hemrick was not only going to move on to the trucks and the Xfinity, but to be a contender for the championship. Nothing against Daniel Hemrick, but you know, you just don't see that. Ryan Preece, I saw that. And I'm going to tell you that. And I told him that when he lost his first win by as the way it was called from the tower, taking out the leader, which he really didn't. But I would have made the call different if I was up there, but I wasn't, so you know, it is what it is. But you know, the Xfinity Series, that was another series years ago that you know, the Cup guys ran, and the Xfinity guys, or the Nationwide guys, or the Busch guys, you know, you can go back to whatever names they were, is that these drivers You didn't have the Cup guys jumping down to run in that series. And I'm kind of glad what they did with the points is, you know, if you have to declare your series. All right, I'm gonna drive in the Cup. That's my primary series. Yeah, I can if I want, if I choose to race the other divisions, the trucks and the Xfinity, but I don't get points. I'm okay with that, to a degree. You know, they were bushwhackers, and the Cup guys are using the race people thought for testing, almost like a pre-race test for Cup. The cars are nowhere near the same, so please get that idea out of here. That's not why they do it. A racer wants to race, and if there's an opportunity to race, they're going to take it. You know, if somebody came up to me, you know, this week and says, "Hey, you want to race next year?" I would actually sit back and seriously think about it. Yeah, I'd love to go drive a race car, go play. You know, if I didn't have to, like, you know, show up at the shop 5 nights out of 7 and you know, put it all back together after I wreck it. I would love to do that, but nobody's out in the parking lot of the studio waiting to give me a ride in anything. So that parade passed me by. But anyway, you know, the Xfinity as well, going to Miami. I'm going to pick out who's the winner. And how these guys, now these guys, as you saw, are young guys. Young guys, experienced in their own right in the series that they developed in. These guys are racers. They're not beating, banging guys. They're going to roll around in the pit area, in the garage area. These guys are racers. And these guys are going to show up in Miami and put on one heck of a show. One heck of a show for this. And I'll tell you, I'm thinking the Xfinity race is going to be the most exciting race in pure professional racing of the weekend. Because I don't know what's going to happen in this Cup deal. I think there's going to be a little bit too much beating and banging, and those who know me know that I'm okay with that. I'm okay with, you know, pushing and shoving and sparks flying. But I'm not okay with stuffing somebody in the fence or sending them into the infield. And don't be afraid to get it back, you know. And you know, and yeah, Jay Slice, I saw that. And for those who weren't in the chat room, you know, Fox Sports has a countdown for Kyle Busch on his 200 wins that he's close to, including all 3 series. And they're comparing him to Richard Petty. And he has 194 wins between the truck, the Cup, and the Xfinity. And as Jay Slice says, only 51 in Cup. Yeah, you know, look, Kyle Busch, you're a good driver and you put on a show, but you're not Richard Petty and you don't have 200 wins in the Cup Series. And yes, people are going to argue back in those days, in the Petty days, in the 60s, primarily when they were running 50 races a year. And he's winning 20, 25 races a year. Yeah, there's a whole different era. You know, it's a whole different era. But, you know, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And I'm looking forward to this weekend's events here or there in Miami. I wish I was in Miami. But, you know, the playoffs, again, yeah, the last race is going to be, you know, pretty exciting. And but what about what got them to there? And I don't know. I'm still not a big fan of this playoff deal, and I don't think I ever will. And you know, it should be the guy with the most points at the end is the champion. Plain and simple. It's like the year that NASCAR in the late '60s, I believe it was, that in their infinite wisdom said in the rule book, the first and second place winners in the Daytona 500 will carry those points every race. Now, the point structure back then was ridiculous. So let's say you got 100 points for first and 50 points for second. Every race, those 2 guys, Richard Petty and Cale Yarborough, raced that season. They were given 100 points or 50 points, whatever it was at the time. So the first 2 points leaders for the final point tally is if you finished first in the Daytona 500, you were the champion. If you finished second, you were the runner-up. Everybody else is racing for third. Whoever came up with that stupid system was, you know what? Take the points. Take the points, and I'll tell you what. You have 40 cars, you win, you get 40 points. Then 39, 38, 37, all the way down, you finish last, you get a point. Yeah, you lead a lap to make it interesting, yeah, 5 points. Or make it even 1 point. None of this led the most laps stuff. I'm not in for that, because then it becomes a parade without music. Points. You get the most. It's like every other sport. Whoever has the most points, except in golf, wins. Baseball, you win 9-3. You're the winner. Football, 21-17. You're the winner. You have 21 points. Hockey, bowling, the guy with the most pins wins. Golf, the guy with the least amount. But you get the point. It's kind of crazy, and it's funny. You add the points up, and I know everybody does the calculations. Oh, let's say if there was no, playoffs, who would be the champion? And it's Truex Jr. But it just isn't about. It's about putting on a show. And I know Mike Helton said that to me a couple of times when I was working for NASCAR. We're here to put on a show. We don't really care who wins. I kind of doubt that, but okay. But we're here to put on a show. And we got to put on a show for our sponsors. And yeah, I guess so. And that taught me a lesson. It taught me a valuable lesson when he said that to me. Our sponsors. It wasn't about the teams. It's about NASCAR. NASCAR's income. International Speedway Corp. And their racetracks. Making money. And that's kind of big. And that's what you have to do. And it's something that needs to be tweaked. You're gonna have this playoff system. I don't know. Why don't you just start it at, race 1? There's like 55 or 60 different drivers that took the green in the Cup Series this year. There was maybe 38 or 36 regulars, but why not just do that? Why not just start eliminating people? All right, you can't win. Why would a mediocre team that has no shot even show up? Think about that. At racers at this level, they show up to win. Yeah, even the starting parks aren't like they used to be, but they show up to win. Nobody at this level, where millions of dollars are at stake to be won or lost, goes there and says, I'm just looking to finish today. No, they say, I'm looking to win. And that's what they want to do. They want to win, and that's what racing is all about. And, some of the people say, second's the first loser. Maybe. But I'm a numbers guy. I play with numbers. And I remember telling one of my drivers one time who wanted to win races, and I said to him, in a class we were racing, and I said, the champion from 2 years ago, his average finish was 4th, and he won the championship. He didn't win any races, but he won the championship. It's consistency, folks. It's consistency. And it's not like in a couple of it used to be, who led the laps, because you got 5 points for leading the lap, 5 points for leading the most laps. And if you think about it, it was 36 races. If you can get 10 extra points every race, you could finish 5th. Because at the end of the year, you're getting 350 points that nobody else has. Think about that. Think about that, because that's what happens. That's where it's at. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and we come back. We're going to chat about the Camping World Truck Series and their Final 4 going into Miami, as well as the top 10 at Phoenix when we come back.
Hi, I'm Remington.
I'm Emerson.
And I'm Sebastian.
We're Palais Royale, and you're watching Inravio TV.
There we go.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Hey, this is Chris Less Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi, this is Mike Jarecki from My Race News, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Welcome back, everybody. Alrighty, Camping World Truck Series. Another good race at Phoenix, and that's like a nice, like little track. It's not a cookie cutter track, even with the reconfiguration. It's a really good place to run a race in the middle of the desert, you know, in the middle of the desert, literally. But anyway, good race in there, and the Camping World Truck Series results look like this. Brett Moffitt was the winner. Noah Gragson was second. Harrison Burton third. Grant Enfinger fourth. Stewie Friesen was fifth. Tyler Ankrum sixth. Johnny Sauter seventh. Derek Kraus eighth. Christian X ninth, and Sheldon Creed rounding out the top 10. The final four in the Camping World Truck Series going into Miami will be Brett Moffitt, Justin Haley, Johnny Sauter, and Noah Gragson. That's Johnny Sauter's picture up there. And I'll tell you what, this truck series, when it started, back when it was the True Value thing, back, well, I'm going to say early 80s. And it was a series designed for drivers who were kind of on their way out and still wanted to compete, and for drivers on the way up. Now, that was a good thing. That was a good thing. But I really thought, looking back, I really thought that you'd see the trucks on smaller racetracks. Yeah, they go to Eldora and race on dirt, and you know, they got their Bristol and their Martinsvilles. But I really thought they'd go to other venues. Now, when you look at the grandstands, it's not like they're in these 80,000 seat arenas and it's packed. They're in these 100,000 seat arenas and it looks like nobody's there. There's probably 40 or 50,000 the way they're spread out, or you know, give or take 5,000. But I really thought I'd see them at some of the smaller tracks, like they used to be. Like they used to be. And like they could run at the tracks that the K&M Pro Series East runs in. They're not running the other than New Hampshire, the miles. Run the 3/4 miles, run the 5/8. I would love to see the trucks at Stafford. Motor Speedway up in Connecticut. I would love to see that. I really would. You know, half mile and up, but not a mile and a half, not 2 miles, not 2.5, not 2.66 like Talladega. These smaller racetracks, I think is good. And, you know, and yeah, Jay Slay's, man, you're on a roll tonight, Jay Slay's. Got to keep the money in NASCAR-owned tracks. Smaller tracks are not NASCAR-owned. And that's probably, he's hit the nail right on the head. They're owned by individuals, corporations, people. Yeah, Bruton Smith, you know, he got his elbows in there and he got a bunch of races at his racetracks and he closed some racetracks to get the bigger venues in there. And whether or not that was right, he's a businessman. He has a right to do whatever he wants with his business. But when you think about, you know, the truck series, you know, I really do think they need to race at smaller venues. Not that my word counts, not that anything I say will or do will be affected by that, but I really think it should be. That's what they should be racing. And these guys, you know, when I see the ARCA cars, who now are going to be part of NASCAR in 2020, when I see them show up at Daytona, and we all know it's a wreck fest. Equipment's getting torn up, and guys, unfortunately, getting hurt. Thank God it's nothing serious. But here's what happens, and maybe if I was racing in a series like that, I'd do the same thing. I mean, heck, you try to win on the first lap. But when you when you see these ARCA guys racing, all of a sudden you really, wait, the big time owners are here. Roush Fenway, Richard Childress Racing, Hendrick. Oh man, I gotta go crazy. I gotta show them. They shouldn't do that. They shouldn't do that. You know, it's one of those things. They should just be not racing at Daytona. Please, there's so many things they can do better. But anyway, you know, the trucks, when they first came out, they had the halfway brakes, and why, I don't know. You know, it was the same kind of people, same, you know, pit crews. Most of them were part of other teams in the top 2 series. So when you have the trucks, you know, they need to separate. And I know it's a logistical nightmare for NASCAR to get officials to all these different venues all the time. But you know what? I think NASCAR has enough money to do that. And they don't need, you know, 40 pit road officials because they're doing it from a trailer in a parking lot. So I don't think it's that much of a logistical nightmare. But it's something that needs to be redone. So, and thank you. I'll tell you what, V-Ride, he's always such a positive guy. He's in the, and not to, you know, overlook anything else anybody says, but this guy, he's got to be the most positive race car driver I've ever met in my entire life, and I met a lot of them. And always has something good to say, always promoting the sport, always promoting his racetrack, promoting our show. And, you know, so I want to thank him because Mike is, he's a good kid. And he's not a kid anymore, geez. You know? I think I met him for the first time. I think I met him like 16 years ago. He was a kid then. But I want to thank you, V-Rad. You got to come down. We got to get you down. And we talk some racing. But, you know, it's all good. And, you know, Miami's going to be interesting. So just go to your local stations and see when it's on, pencil it in, and sit back in your recliner and watch this, because it's going to be interesting. You know, the truck's beating and banging already. And but I still think the Xfinity race is going to be the most exciting race of the weekend. I really do. I really, really do. And it's going to be fun. Anyway, before we take a break, we're going to, there's something I saw recently, and it's, you know, it's, how do I say this? The NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour schedule usually comes out on or after their awards banquet the first weekend of December. Well, this is what happens sometimes, is that certain events get leaked out. And it's been announced that South Boston Speedway, Virginia, will be added to the 2019 NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour schedule. Now, this came from Brandon Thompson, the managing director of NASCAR Touring. Says he announced it, and they're going back there. Now, that was a place of the Southern Modified Tour, primarily the race. There was a joint race there with the Southern and Modified guys, and it was the year, I'm trying to think if it was a storm, and now I'm thinking, was it Sandy? I don't remember. But I remember that the coast was being evacuated and my flight was canceled, and I had to drive back with Russ Huggins, another official who lived in New Hampshire. And we were told to drive back. And and that wasn't even a joint, that was a Southern Modified race, and they needed us. And but that was at Caraway, that was in South Boston. But the bridge is closed, and Russ just got over just in time, and I was stuck in Queens because the train stopped. But that's a story for another time. But when you think about the modifieds going to South Boston, that's a historic racetrack in Virginia, and they put on the Southern Modified guys put on one heck of a show there. And when you think about it, the last time the Whaler Modified Tour competed at South Boston was in 2001. And that was a long time ago. That was like 17 years ago. And then they had the joint race, I believe it was in 2009. And it's a nice racetrack. It's 0.4 miles. It's 3/8. It's a 3/8 racetrack. And when you have a race at a place like that, it's racing. It's grassroots racing. It's the type of track that and I'm going to say this, once you go there, you're going to want to go back. It's good, clean, hard racing. And I'm glad to see that the modifieds are starting to venture to other venues other than the same. And I can remember years ago, one of my first years, and I'm in a meeting with the series director, Ed Cox, and one of the NASCAR bigwigs. And his name is escaping me for some reason, and myself. And we were sitting at a table, and he says, Jimmy Hunter, rest in peace, Jimmy Hunter, and he puts his arm, he goes, how strong do you think this series is? And we both, Ed and I, look at each other, pretty strong. And he goes, leans forward at the table. He goes, you have 22 races. He goes, 10 of them are between two tracks. You lose those two tracks, it's not so strong anymore, is it? Now, when you look back, he was trying to make us see that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. All the eggs, half the races, almost half the races are raced at two racetracks. Yeah, we went to Beach Ridge in Maine. We went up to Holland and upstate New York, Lake Erie up in Pennsylvania. We went to some good places to go racing. And Stafford cut back a race or two. Thompson went from 5 to 3. The Thompson 300 was like was like an insane race. No longer the races you looked forward to. Yeah, you still have the Icebreaker and the Spring Sizzler and the Fall Final and the World Series. Yeah, you still have those races, but they don't have the same luster. Time changes. Time marches on. Going to South Boston, another venue in the South. And I hope it's a race that's held earlier in the season. Because as we know, earlier in the season, everybody thinks they have a shot at the top 10, the top 5, and they're going to go. If they have this race later in the season, because most of the tour guys that are on this series are from the New England area. Well, I shouldn't say that anymore because there's many Long Islanders, but to get off Long Island sometimes is a nightmare. So that's a haul to go to South Boston. That's a haul. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be one of those things. And, South Boston is a NASCAR Wheeling All-American Series track as well, so I'm sure there'll be some support divisions there. So it'll be, I'm sure, a nice crowd, and it's going to be an awesome, awesome show. Awesome. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and we come back. Just a couple of things we want to talk about and wrap this thing up and call it a week when we come back.
Hey guys, this is Jibs from Ocean's 8, Alaska, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Mark Weller. We're some of the proto men. If we see you without this bracelet, you're gonna punch in the But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com, you can win $100.
Put one of these on, or else.
What's up, guys? This is Assuming We Survive, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. You know, it's funny. I see a lot of people, but they're chatting and what they're talking about, and it's all good. And I appreciate everybody coming on and doing that. So, it's just amazing, and it's been a good ride. But anyway, little announcement out of NASCAR: Hendrick Motorsports driver William Byron. Yo.
They're saying that David Pearson passed away.
Oh, breaking news. Literally just found out that NASCAR former Cup driver, David Pearson, just passed away at the age of 83. I do not have any details. We're going to try to get some before we close, but David Pearson, driver to Wood Brothers number 21, many a battle with Richard Petty and the gang, years and years. Who will never forget that finish where they were beating and banging coming out of turn 3, and Petty sitting on the infielder's car, demolished. Pearson's car limped across the finish line with the win. And David Pearson, I met David Pearson many years ago when I was, two things were happening. UPS was transferring me to Greenville, South Carolina, and NASCAR was talking to me about managing a weekly racetrack that they own that nobody knew, so I really can't say what the name of the racetrack is. And Ed Cox connected me with David Pearson to show me where I should try to live in conjunction with my office. It was a UPS call center in Greenville, South Carolina, and David Pearson was trying to show me the traffic patterns and he said, my friend David will meet you at the hotel, and there was David Pearson, 3-time champion. David Pearson, he had 105 wins in a NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series in 574 starts, and he had 3 champions. They came in just 4 attempts at full-time NASCAR because David Pearson only drove in the big money races. His championships were in 1966, 1968, and 1969, and he drove in 42 of 49 races in 1966 and won 15 of them. He had 16 wins in 68 when he competed in 48 of the season's 49 races. He drove in 18 of the 28 Cup races in 1973, winning 11 and finishing in the top 5 14 times. And that year he was 13th in the point standings, and even though he didn't compete in 10 of the races, known as the Silver Fox, Pearson won his championships with Holman Moody Racing and ran for the Wood Brothers from 1972 to 78, scoring 43 wins in the iconic number 21 car. Our prayers go out to the Pearson family. NASCAR just lost a legend in racing. And there's another guy who's going to be signing in to Heaven Motor Speedway. Rest in peace, David. You were one of those guys that made this sport interesting. Anyway, Hendrick Motorsports driver William Byron was named the Sunoco Rookie of the Year in NASCAR Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. He beat out Richard Petty Motorsports driver Darrell Bubba Wallace, who was second in the Rookie of the Year tally. And the way they do it, it's not, and I know a lot of places, a lot of racetracks, especially in the weekly, there's no rhyme or reason to how they pick a Rookie of the Year. And the way it's done is points. It's rookie points, and I believe it's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, depending on how many rookies. And at the end of the season, it's the rookie with the most points, your Rookie of the Year. Not race points, but the Rookie of the Year tally points. So, if you're one of the rookies and you finish 19th and the next rookie finished 30th, you're the top guy, you get the 10 points of that. So, so that's all good. And so congratulations to William Byron on that. And Mary Holman George, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway executive and philanthropist and car owner, died last week at the age of 83 as well. She was best known from 1997 to 2015 as the person who gave the command, "Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines." Her husband, George, was chairman of Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the board from 1988 to 2016. And again, another piece of racing has left us to go back home and maybe run a racetrack up there. And now they have somebody to say, drivers, start your engines. So the hits keep coming, folks. They just keep coming. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. And then we come back, we'll wrap this thing up and get ready for another week when we come back.
Hey guys, this is Jibs from Ocean's 8, Alaska, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Mark Weller. We're some of the proto men. If we see you without this bracelet, you're punching the But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com,
right.
you win $100.
That was put one of these on, or else.
What's up, guys? This is Assuming We Survive, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Hey, Robert Clark just reminded me that 1952 NASCAR modified champion Frankie Schneider passed away this past Sunday at the age of 92. I never had the opportunity to see Frankie Schneider race. I'm not that old, but I know he was a tough competitor. I read some stuff on him. One of the nicest guys that you could talk to about racing, but it's the late Walt Etzler used to tell me that some guys, when they get on the racetrack, they put the helmet on, it squeezes their brain. And although Frankie was not that type of guy, but he took advantage of it, of the guys who did have their brain being squeezed when they were racing. So, and rest in peace, Frankie. And of course, here at the Inravio TV network and the 505 and Racing Show, we offer our prayers and condolences to all those that passed away. And speaking of passed away, Veterans Day. Veterans Day is legally today, but it really was yesterday, the 11th hour, the 11th minute, 11th day, the 11th month, 11/11. I want to thank all our veterans, those living and those past, for their service to our country. And back when World War I started, we recruited whoever we could get to do what we had to do, and World War II was a whole different thing. It wasn't a political war; it was a war. We were fighting for our freedom. We were fighting for our country, and guys lined up at the recruiting station, lined up, sign me up. I got to do what I got to do, and of course there was the other wars that went on, and the unrecognized war like Vietnam, but we had Korea, and what's going on in the Middle East, and I want to thank all those veterans for what they do, and for the ones that came home, and for the ones that didn't. We're going to memorialize them in May, and but they were veterans too, and I've been blessed that some of my family members were veterans, are veterans, and my son, the most recent, my son Brian, Sergeant First Class Brian Gashido, who did his time. He did 20 years over there, and he's home and he's a veteran. And I sit here thinking about what's going through his head today on this Veterans Day weekend, however you want to call it. And a lot of racers over the years who stopped racing. They gave up their racing careers to go do what they had to do to defend our country. And I saw a young guy today come into my business, and he had an Army hat on, and he had Army tattoos, and he still had his dog tags, and he made a purchase, and I thanked him for his service, and he looked at me, young guy in his mid-20s, and he goes, well, thank you. And I said, my son spent a lot of time over in that sandbox in the Middle East, and he goes, where was he? And I started telling him, and he said, that place was crazy, and his face changed. He said, that place was crazy. I couldn't wait to get home. And I welcomed him. I says, well, welcome home. And he goes, but my life is messed up now. I lost my house. I don't have a job. And I don't get any help. And then we got into this political conversation, which I'm not going to share here. But I thought about that as the rest of the day went on. And we need to do something for our veterans. We need to take care of them, because they gave the government a blank check and said, whatever you need me to do, I'm going to do it. And when they were done with it, they just said, okay, turn in your stuff, go put on civilian clothes. But anyway, Veterans Day, when you see a veteran, go up to them and thank them. Especially the older guys that are sitting there with their World War II hat on and their shirt and their coat. I know you're going to bring tears to their eyes when you say thank you. Trust me. Trust me. Anyway, it's all good. So we're going to wrap up today. I want to thank everybody because today's show was a little special to me. And I don't want to get into the whys and why nots, but every show is good and have a good time with it. But today, with being the celebrated Veterans Day, it makes you think. It makes you think of the liberties we have to go out and go racing, to go do what we love to do. There's other parts of this world, they can't do what they love to do. They just can't. We can. Thank Yvette. We're racing because of Yvette. Not directly, indirectly. So thank Yvette. All right. So I'm going to thank you folks for taking time out of your busy schedules to be a part of the 5x5 and Racing Show tonight. And it's always good. It's always fun. The hour goes way too quick. But you know what? It's an hour out of our day where we get to put everything else aside and talk about the things we love, and that's racing. So wherever your endeavors are going to bring you this week, please be safe, please be careful. Tell somebody you love them, give them a hug. God bless you all. We'll see you next Monday. Good night, everybody.
Inravio.com. Inravio.com.